Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali Dia. I'm the Executive Director of Ta'leef, and with us is Dr. Will Caldwell and Sheikh Umar Hasib. It's amazing to have both of them here with us again. And today we'll be discussing a very merry Ramadan. You know, my children, half of their family is Christian Greek Orthodox, and the other half is Muslim. And, you know, I don't want to say competition, but it's almost like a competition. In that, as a parent, you're thinking, how do I navigate this holiday, Ramadan, in such a way that makes you feel that you've kind of outstripped Christmas for them, that they don't feel nostalgic in a way towards Christmas and kind of be like, yeah, Ramadan's rolling around the corner, it's cool. Because me as a heritage Muslim, right, there's so many things outwardly about Christmas that's extremely attractive. Like, you got the cinnamon, right? You got the lights, right? You got the songs that we all know and memorize willingly or unwillingly, right? And then Ramadan rolls around and you have dates, you know? Or you might, if you're lucky enough, like me growing up, you have a moment where your mom is cooking like the most delicious meals in the world and you're just like, it's Ramadan.
Well, there's no Mariah Carey songs about Ramadan.
Okay, I guess that's a good thing.
But yeah, I mean, I feel a sense of competition. You know, me coming from a Christian background, my parents, my brother, in-laws, aunts, uncles, they're all Christian. And we go home to visit my family every December. And so I feel, you know, a certain sense of anxiety, both around Christmas and around Ramadan and Eid, because I really want to create an experience and a feeling for my children that is just as special when it comes to this month that we are now in. But, you know, you don't have the wider society like validating those good feelings about Ramadan or about Eid in the same way that society validates and celebrates Christmas. You know, in December you go out anywhere in public and there's lights and it's really exciting. And you know, you go out during Ramadan and it's just like, well, right now it's cold. Like it's, you know, we're in winter. So, you know, I have, you know, thought of like all these creative ways that I can sort of like make this just as special for them. But, you know, the answers certainly are not like forthcoming. Like what is the right solution to this? You know, I still don't feel that I have like landed on like the right thing to do to sort of like create that for my children. And, you know, really like to create it for myself and like my wife and my friends, right? It is a month of fasting. It is a month that is rigorous in a lot of ways. So, you know, I think like in so many ways we are still waiting on like an act of genius, like creative expression to really sort of like guide us through the month of Ramadan at a cultural level as American Muslims.
I totally agree with you. I think, Sheikh Umar, you'll see people, they're trying to navigate what does it mean to have a Muslim American Ramadan. And you see people, and I'm not knocking on this, they're trying, right? You have Ramadan trees now, right? Or you have individuals that put up the calendar now right under their fire chimney, right? And it's like, hold up, I know where this is kind of coming from, and I see we're trying to take something and trying to elevate it maybe into something that's our own.
I haven't seen the Ramadan trees yet, so it's like a first. I actually haven't seen it. I personally enjoy people trying. That's the first thing. I think like you said, this is really important, is like when people have this attempt of trying to make something beautiful, we have a tendency as a community to nip it in the bud without even thinking about it, unpacking it, and we go straight to like, it's something that has to be suspect. Almost that is like, if there's something happy about something, well, it's probably suspect. We have to make sure that it meets the conditions of happiness. So the first thing is, I don't think, like you said, I don't think we should demonize those things first. At the flip side, you'll always hear, this foundational things that people throw around a lot. Whomsoever imitates the people, they're from them. Man tashabbaha qawm fahuwa minhum. Like whoever imitates these people, they're from them. It's like a weaponized thing. It's like anything you do that is like, and it's usually used to like things that are joyous. It's never used to like boring. Like it's never used for things like taxes. Like it's used for like celebratory things. But it's not, it's, you know, like, so I think the first is like we should appreciate that aspect of an attempt to bring some light to a beautiful month. Ramadan is not Christmas. Ramadan is its own thing, right? And Christmas didn't compete with other holidays. Ramadan is a very different, you don't have to fast in Christmas. You don't have to be tired. You don't have to go to a football practice and not have water and drink. It's a rigorous time. What we should really be focusing on is on the build up for Eid. Eid is our day.
What I'm trying to get at is how do I, you know, there's like a feeling, and maybe Dr. Will, you could expand on this, like I want to have a feeling with my family that I know our children or are gonna look back at this thing and be like, yeah, I'm down with Ramadan because of this. You know, like I'll give a subtle example. The scholars, whenever they see children at the mosque, they give them candy. They give them candy. Teachers, I've seen them my whole life, they just give them candy. Or they tell you, like, if they're gonna go to Jum'ah prayer, Friday prayer with you, after the Friday prayer, take them get ice cream. Because they know there's like this connection. How have we done that at a greater scale in Ramadan or Eid, is my question.
Yeah, well, I think that is the right question. It's like, how do we, I mean, if we're not going to try to compete with Christmas necessarily, and I guess like in a way that would sort of like shove Ramadan into like the Christmas box, how do we ornament, you know, the actual rituals, the celebrations in Ramadan, while maintaining that, you know, that sort of reverence, that sense of rigor, right? I think you touched on it perhaps already, you know, handing out candy in the masjid to children. You want your kids and you want the, you know, the other children in your community to look back, really. I mean, this is the way I think about it. You want them to be able to look back as adults and think, yeah, you know, like some of my best memories growing up were in the masjid. Some of my best memories are attached to moments of prayer. Even though I was running around being a kid, I was being crazy, you know, I remember everyone was there praying. And there was space for me, and, you know, people welcomed me in this way. They just, you know, they gave me a little treat. This feels like the right direction.
We all can have an impact in this tradition, no matter where you are in your knowledge level. Like, look at Malcolm, right? Malcolm, he probably passed away having just been able to recite the Fatiha correctly and a few other verses of the Quran. Yet look at the impact that he had across America with Muslims, right? I think what happens is that we have to feel, as Muslims, comfortable enough in cultivating arts and cultivating an experience in such a way that then you get your Malcolms of that nature, right? That you get your eggnog feeling that I get every time Christmas rolls around. I'm like, bro, why am I getting excited? What's going on, right? Yeah. And so what I'm trying to say is that our religion, because of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not just clergy members that allows for cultural and art to move forward. You see what I'm saying? It's actually rarely been that. They've been in the backgrounds and navigating it at times, right? But then what happens is then you get your Shakespeare, right? And that gives you the context, and we're hoping that we get that, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Malcolm, I think of like such a high standard of character. And, you know, this is something that I think is actually unique to Ramadan. Something that there isn't a sense of competition in, because frankly, no one competes with the Muslims in this. Like around the holidays, You know, like a sad reality is like around Christmas time, like as joyous of a time that it is, like deaths from like DUIs go up, right? Yeah. Incidents of domestic violence also go up. You know, because I think similar to COVID, like you're not going to work every day, like you're back at home with your family. A lot of those sort of like latent issues emerge. And then oftentimes like alcohol is in the mix as well. But in Ramadan, like you hear this term like the Ramadan Muslim, right? And you know we've talked about this term before. It's derogatory in a way, but really it shouldn't be. But like Muslims show up for Ramadan and they are invested, and like our conduct with each other. Really, this is something that still amazes me to this day, having been Muslim for many years now, is what a pleasant experience iftar is, where you have all these people together, and what you might think would be an opportunity for like heads butting, falling out, you know, people just have like the best etiquette with one another. And so when it comes to like, you know, this, what do I want my children to remember, and what do I think they actually will remember about Ramadan, is like, oh wow, you know what, like that was the time of year when like Baba was the best to us. That's right. That was the time of year that it was best to go to the masjid. It was best to go to ta'leef, right? And I pray they always enjoy doing those things, but especially during that time of year, I think there will be special memories that they have of like, wow, this is what fasting actually produced in people.
We're trying to push maybe a possibility of like, how does this thing look like in America? But there are already things that Muslims are doing innately that we overlook that's completely organic, completely American, completely Muslim, right? Just like the iftar, the way it comes in together, right? Like you outlined already. Or just the recitation of the Quran in the masajid, the way that it is. That's like unique to anything you've ever experienced in your life. Being able to hear revelation, whether you know how to read it or not read it, whether you can pronounce it yourself very well or not, you have communities all over the US and the West coming together to engage in the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, that alone, I feel like there's no competition with once you're in those settings, right? Once you can adapt to being in those settings. Like, the light is unreal. You know, because we're talking about Christmas lights, right? But how about we orient all these lights outwardly? Even in the Muslim world growing up, there's so many lights that you see around these holidays, right? But are we ornamenting our heart, right, to receive Allah's different colors? Because the Quran talks about that. Exactly. The colors of Allah, the dyes, right? And you know, you got Christmas, red, white, green, like those colors are almost like every time you see them, you're like, those are great. Allah has His dyes, and they come in the heart.
You know, God says in the Quran, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, and in that these competitors compete, or فَاسْتَبِقُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ, let them race in goodness. Muslims only compete really with one another when it comes to like feeding. Like we literally compete in who gets to feed somebody more.
Who pays for the check?
Check, right? Everybody eats when it's Ramadan. The month of fasting, everybody eats, right? Everybody feasts in Ramadan. Like, that's just like really important, like part of like, we have to as a community in America know that whether we like it or not, like you said, the authentication of an Islamic celebratory experience is already happening and is going to change, and it's going to change generation after generation, and they're already doing it. And I love hearing this new thing that, you know, people are saying like, man, Ramadan's a vibe. Yeah. Ramadan's a vibe. Ramadan's a vibe. Or it's like, yeah, you gotta come over to ta'leef, Ramadan's a vibe. You gotta go to this place, Ramadan's a vibe. Over Tarawih is a vibe. Like, subhanAllah, right?
Yeah, coffee spots now in Ramadan have become a vibe.
Let wahi do its work. Let revelation just do its work. Let revelation do what it does.
And I think all of us, inshallah, should take note of that, especially myself, where we let go and let God this Ramadan, and inshallah Allah will show us, and inshallah from the practices of the Muslim generations to allow us to have a beautiful, authentic, very merry Ramadan. My name is Ali Dia, I'm the Executive Director of Ta'leef. Ramadan Mubarak.